Welcome to Psyber Conversations, the show where it's okay to agree to disagree. I'm Josh. We got Bob, Matthew, Darin, and Heather, and special guest star Ben visiting us from Cinema Gulp. And we are talking about the Avengers. We were talking last week about how we would have really liked to see the Black Order get their names because we didn't really learn much about them in the movies. And, you know, I find the characters interesting enough that I would have liked to learn more. We were just about to talk about the scenes with Wanda and Vision and how they kind of, I guess the word is nerfed Vision. And the one note that I made is I know Wanda and Vision are a thing in the comics, or they were. There was a romance between them. So it's not like it's out of left field, but they did kind of skip it because the last time we saw them was in Civil War and they were making paprikash, or however you say that.
Paprika.
And now
Paprikash.
and now they're a full blown romance, which is cool. I just they kind of skipped over it, but I do know that they really needed to make Vision much more. They needed to strip away some of his powers to make him not capable of destroying Thanos by thinking it. You know. So
yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things that we commented on. Ben mentioned it in the first part is, it's in Matthew, it's like, they kind of nerfed Vision, and I guess there was a reason for it. However, there,
I
don't
thought it
know
was
of
a logical reason.
Well, yeah, but I don't know of
fair.
anybody who's like, I mean, we've talked in various other episodes about like retconning, not that they're retconning Vision, but however, it's just like, you built him up to be this, I mean, he's taking on Ultron and shooting beams out of his head and everything else. And then here it's just like, I mean, I know it's like, they stabbed me with the thing and it prevented me from phasing is what he tells Wanda and that type of thing. But I still think that in my personal opinion, I think they lost a little bit of Vision because not just that he was, they had lessened his power, for lack of a better term, but I think they just maybe lessened him as less of a person as
a
the
contributor to the problem solving.
He becomes a MacGuffin.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he just becomes the holder of the Mind Stone at that point. I mean, he's just the he's no different than the Tesseract or the Scepter or the Ether or whatever else. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but
yeah,
they did. They did limit
when we were
him,
discussing
absolutely.
the Age of Ultron. I think I mentioned that one complaint I have with Vision is that they didn't do more with him before this movie. I mean, I don't know when they would have, unless they had made a Vision movie or a Wanda and Vision movie, something like that. But instead, he was only in a couple of movies. He was in 2 movies before this. And now we're at the end of Vision's journey. And that just, I feel like they really underutilized the character, considering
I agree.
his
I
history in the
100%
comics.
agree. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think they didn't know what to do with him once they established him as this dominant power. And I really like him in Ultron. He basically kind of saves the day. Like without him,
Right.
It might not have worked so well. And then I guess I kind of liked the way they used him in Civil War, even though, I mean, there's a little hint of a setup of a romance in there, but hardly. But there's a line in this movie where Tony's talking to Banner and he says, like, he's evolving, he's changing, he's not just this like robot thing. So to me, when he does get stabbed, it made me think like, okay, so his evolution, there's a part of him that's becoming more vulnerable and more human, maybe. And that's why that kind of hit him so hard. I'm not really sure because obviously we know we needed to take him out of the movie because he would have killed all the Black Order easily by himself had he not gotten stabbed like that. But I do think that line about he's evolving and kind of changing made it kind of made it feel a little bit more acceptable that like, okay, so he got hurt kind of like how a human would get hurt. He's spending a lot of time in human form. So maybe that has something to do with it because what's his name? The actor hated the makeup very much.
Yeah.
Paul Bettany hated
the
makeup. So.
Yeah. I don't know, Matthew, what did you feel about that? Or Darin?
I don't know. I don't know that I'd say he's
nerfed. I just think he was caught with his pants down.
Unawares. Yeah.
I mean, he was, he's distracted by his love for Wanda. They're talking. I mean, he gets stabbed through the back and it fully pierces his body. It's not like you can see, I don't know, it almost looked like a kill shot at first when you first watch it. And then I don't know that I would say he's nerfed if he's.
Well, I think that I wouldn't say he's nerfed in that he was less powerful to begin with. I think he was made less powerful by getting stabbed.
Sure, but it's
and I'm guessing the spear was some kind of magical spear that was
right.
Able to
Again, Black Order being underdeveloped, and we don't know the extent of their abilities.
Well, yeah,
right?
My question is the blade that it was Glaive that stabbed him, right?
Corvus Glaive.
Yeah. Corvus Glaive. Are their weapons Infinity Stone energy based? Like the way Wanda
they
is
never said
Infinity Stone energy based?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Like that. Because that would make sense, because I mentioned last week that the way the Infinity Stones were written into other objects in the MCU to give them an anchor to different plot points.
It might have made sense if they had done that.
Well, the origin of the powers, including different weapons, and the origin of the superhero powers of different characters within the MCU, also can trace some of their origins back to the powers of the Infinity Stones. So you have this cross-pollination, this battle between different people using Infinity Stone energy against itself,
Yeah.
So
but they never go that far. So it made
sense.
They never explain it, but
but it made sense if Glaive's blade was Infinity Stone energy based, that it could have hurt Vision. So it didn't.
We're not meant to know,
right? Yeah, but it didn't. It didn't
ultimately
bother me much that it hurt him.
Yeah.
Since it was coming from Thanos, and he.
But
already
I do
had
think that's
stones
why. I think that's why they did it. It was because they needed to take away his powers.
Yeah.
At least some of them. They needed to make him.
Is it convenient to the story that he's taken out? Sure. But it's also I don't know, if you think about Civil War, well, sure, and that was stupid. But Vision getting stabbed and being powerless is less stupid. And we've seen him get his butt handed to him because Wanda shoves him through to the core of the earth in Civil War, like it's nothing, and he had a Mind Stone then too. So is he nerfed?
Yeah, but he comes right out of it. Yeah.
Well, we don't see that though.
Well, remember that line from Ultron? Well, I was born yesterday.
Yeah,
I think he's still sort of not really understanding how powerful he is sometimes, because in Civil War he could have ended that entire thing, but he's just sort of pulling his punches or whatever. I agree with Matthew that he was distracted by his love and his kind of desire to be more of a human. And then, of course, she got stabbed with a huge space sword in the back, So,
yeah.
I mean, he could definitely make mistakes, as evidenced by, shooting Rhodey. So he can be distracted. He can make mistakes. He can not see something coming. So, and again, the blade could have been, Infinity Stone energy based.
So I wanted to talk about, because I think this is a big, huge thing, is when Stark and Spider-Man and the Guardians are on Titan, this is the plan, and Doctor Strange is there too, and Doctor Strange is seeing all the 14,605 different futures and everything else, and they come up with this plan. That was a huge. I remember being so angry in the theater that Peter.
You're talking about Star-Lord?
Yeah, that Peter Quill was being.
I have a thought about that though.
And the gauntlet was almost off his hand.
Yeah.
I get that he was upset, but it's dude, you're not that dumb. Don't you see the bigger picture? You're literally trying to.
It's Gamora's fault. Gamora knows Peter. She should not have disclosed that information at that time. Gamora told Peter that she was dead. She should not have done that. It's her fault.
You mean Mantis? Mantis shouldn't have disclosed.
No, it was Gamora that said she left. Thanos took
Nebula.
her to Vormir or whatever it was called, and came back alone. She should not have said that to Peter Quill at that time.
Nebula says that.
Yeah.
Nebula said that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, not Gamora.
But-
Nebula. Yes.
Yeah, Nebula.
Told him
But
that his
I
love
also-
was dead right when they're trying to
But I
get
also,
yeah.
but I also have a thought on that too, and that's because I've heard the arguments. Everyone loves to. There was memes all over the place about how thank you for they would have the 9 pictures of different characters from the Marvel Cinematic Universe saying thank you for your help, and then in the middle it had Peter Quill. It said not you, for because everyone was blaming Peter Quill. But the thing is, before that scene, we had Doctor Strange looking at over 14 million possible futures. Now, you're not going to tell me that in every single one of those futures, Peter did that. In some of those futures, maybe Peter didn't. But this is the only one where we win. So that absolutely had to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know
True.
why. I don't know why. But, there's so many things that maybe they had gotten the glove off and then he beat them anyway and won even worse.
Well, if you really want to get into it, Doctor Strange could have opened up portals, cut off half of his body, cut off there's so many different things. But you're going to tell me that if Tony Stark found out that Thanos killed Pepper, he wouldn't have done the exact same thing. They just happened to put it on Peter, but
By the way, Thor gets some flack for not going for the head. Why didn't he just cut off his arm? Cut off
Yeah,
the
if that's the case,
Anyway.
if that's
or
the
don't
case
sit
now,
there
then
and
why
gloat
didn't
over the fact that you stabbed him and hey, I told you just finish him
Anyways.
off.
Yeah.
Well, where was the TVA if we're going to go that road? I mean, granted that was later, but
I didn't know what the
But
TVA
my
was
point
until I
is-
saw Deadpool. I didn't even know what that
Yeah.
was.
right.
But my
Yeah,
point is
and
that
Loki.
I'm willing to forgive Peter because I believe that it was absolutely necessary. If it happened before Strange had looked into the future, I might have felt different. But Strange had already looked into the future. He knew that was going to happen. So it was absolutely necessary, as far as I'm concerned, for Peter to interrupt that whole thing.
Yeah, Matthew, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, we kind of glossed over last episode. Gamora's unaliving. I don't even know if we discussed it. And
We
how
didn't even discuss it
No,
yet.
devastating
we
that
didn't.
was.
Yeah.
I had to look up, too, because that whole scene still throws me for a loop with the Red Skull suddenly being there, which was cool. And
It was really cool.
It was like a gasp moment in the theater. I remember that being like, wow, we haven't seen him in 7
And
years.
cast really well, considering Hugo Weaving didn't want to do it anymore, but they really got a good lookalike.
Right. And I felt like the Soul Stone, lore-wise, it's an emotionally powerful scene, but it's kind of bankrupt with lore. And it just kind of opened to interpretation until you go back and you have to Google everything. Again, this comes back to my point in the last episode where it's like, this would have been nice if there was that extra half hour to explain some of this, or at least a line from the Red Skull. Because why has nobody else been able to secure the Soul Stone? Why is it, he's like, I guide others to a treasure I can't possess. Well, what others were there? Anyway, I can go off on a tangent on that, but it's like Gamora's death is very, very devastating. And I do think Peter's reaction is perfectly human and valid.
Agreed.
I think it's contrived, though. I think it's a completely, if it's his plan, he even brags about it being his plan. Right to Thanos' face, and he's like, my plan, by the way. And then he goes and messes it all up just because he's, understandably upset. I don't know. I feel like the Russo brothers wrote themselves into a corner, and this was their convenient way of getting out of it. I mean, it's not an issue with
it had to be someone.
Story. Yeah. Sure, and Thanos has to win in this movie. We understood
but it didn't
that going
need to be
it.
somebody. You could have just had it where he couldn't get overpowered. And I mean, if you just don't write the scene where they have him pinned down, then you don't have to have Peter Quill do something that's stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
Or any character.
Or if they had him pinned down and he just overpowers them anyway.
Yeah.
Might have been better. Yeah.
But then it leads into a really great fight scene afterward. And I think that's the highlight of the movie. I know everybody loves the Wakanda scene, but I love the Titan fight scene. And then Doctor Strange going toe-to-toe with Thanos.
That is one of the greatest. I think that's the best Doctor Strange scene ever, where he's just using his power, his tricks. You're full of tricks, wizard. That scene is visually glorious, and it just shows you how much, because you've only seen Doctor Strange in his solo movie, and then in that little bit in Ragnarok. So you see how like powerful he's become in
Mhm.
that scene. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
the one time we get to see Thanos. We really see Thanos use multiple stones in
And
that
he's
one fight
shocked
scene.
to kind of be like, "Oh, I just threw a black hole at you, and it turns into a butterfly." Like he has visible shock
Yeah.
on his face, and I like that detail.
Yeah.
So
But
regardless
he
of
also
the
uses the Soul Stone. Like they didn't explain it, and you might not have even known what the Soul Stone did. But he does use it when Strange turns into the multiple
Mhm.
versions of himself, and then you see the Soul Stone is the one that glows when he turns him back into one person.
Well, and then he
which is
uses the
super cool.
Power Stone to pull that like other
Yep.
planet's matter
Moon,
into the
yeah.
ground.
Yeah.
That was insane.
Yeah, that moon.
The moon, yeah.
But in defense
Yeah,
of Peter, I guess, the 14 million futures. Sorry, Dad, I don't mean to cut you off for derail, but
No.
coming back to
But yeah.
the 14 million futures, I guess it makes sense. I still think it's a really contrived plot.
I agree. Yeah, I
point.
think that it would have been better for Thanos to just overcome them all. That would have been better. But
Or the
I'm still
plan
willing to
fails.
forgive.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm still willing to forgive Peter Quill
Yeah, that
for
was
it.
clearly
unlike
all
some
set
people.
up for Endgame,
Yeah.
I'm guessing. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But
He
Well,
had
this
to
entire
win.
movie was every team that went up against Thanos had to fail in some way. It's just the Titan fight had the most cohesive, well thought out plan that failed. That's
Yeah.
the only difference. That's the only
Yeah.
difference.
And
Every
it's the one
team
that came
had to fail.
closest to winning.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they were closest to winning, and I like that. I like the fact that
Yeah.
you
I
could
love it.
see
Yeah.
the glove, and you could see his thumb out of the glove, and you're like, oh, it's out. Ah, damn it! It's like it was so close.
I know,
I
because of
love
Peter
that
Quill,
scene.
that
I
little
love
poop
that scene.
head.
I love like every scene in this movie. It's spectacular.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm trying to be like, no, that scene wasn't good. No, they were all good. They were all
There's
good.
only
Heather, what do you think?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Matthew. Go
I was
ahead.
to say there's only one scene, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But there's only one scene that does not make sense. It's a major plot hole, and it's never answered or questioned. Is how did Thor know to go to Wakanda after being resurrected with Stormbreaker? There's no answer to that question. And you could say, well, he has the power of the Bifrost. Well, he never had that before. And is the power of the Bifrost to know where everybody's at?
Stormbreaker had the ability to summon the Bifrost. But yeah, where he knew where to go, that's a great question. I don't know.
That's
I
my
don't know.
only.
I don't know either.
Well, because I
Heather,
mean,
well, hang on.
yeah.
I want to get Heather's opinion
yeah,
of
go ahead.
the Titan scene.
I don't know if I have much more to add. You guys have
Well,
a
no,
lot
I mean,
to say.
what
did you think?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I thought it was
you
good.
are an important voice because you're not a comic book lover. That's why we have you on the show. We all know comic books, or at least we are into the Marvel universe so much that we bleed Marvel comics. You're a normal person.
So I was frustrated that the one way that Strange sees, the future involves the time stone getting handed over in the first place.
Yeah.
So that, from the non-comic book point of view, it's like, what? Why? So,
Yeah.
like, how can that be the way you win by giving this up? So
The
there's
only way to
that,
win is
and
to lose. Yeah, and there's some points that you always think, well, we could have done this, but I'm
Well,
willing to say, go ahead.
I think that the interesting point is that Doctor Strange, at that point, after seeing all those outcomes, he becomes the major player in a sense, right? Because he knows, he obviously
puppet
saw the
master.
snap. Yeah, he becomes
Yeah.
well, not the puppet master, but he's now
Well, he's the
playing.
puppet who sees the
he's-
strings.
Yeah, he's the chess player. I mean, he obviously knowingly, he had to know Tony was going to die because that was the one.
Yeah, and he
and he
can't
knew
tell
the
them
snap.
anything. That's the thing.
Yeah,
he would say
If I
like,
tell you what's
go
going to happen,
find a way to go back in time through quantum physics, but he can't say anything because then it won't happen.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah,
Tony
if I tell you
Stark
what's going to
dies?
happen, it won't happen. So he gave up the time stone because the only way to win, the only
because
future
Thanos was
in
going to
which we
kill him
win-
right then and there.
Yeah,
And that's what he
Yeah.
stopped, is the killing of Tony Stark in that moment.
That's
That
because
is
he
what
knew
stopped.
that Tony Stark
again, just
needed to die later.
in the moment. It's a frustrating point that happens. I mean, like, yeah, I can analyze it later and understand. Yeah, I think I was annoyed by Peter Quill and kind of getting in the way of, but I didn't. At that point, I don't think I was expecting them to really get that gauntlet off. So I was expecting the failure
Yeah,
at that
because
point.
movie over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was like, and maybe it was just enough of the, of what was being said at the time, that the bad guy's going to win. I don't know if that spoiler was somehow in my brain the first time I saw it, but yeah, you saw it all going downhill up to that point. So the fact that Peter Quill flew off the handle it was annoying, but I don't think it would have changed anything.
Yeah. So then, obviously at this point, so they fail on Titan, and everybody's like, "Oh shoot, we failed." And then we're in Wakanda. And Wakanda, you get Vision going to Wakanda. Shuri's like, "I'm going to take the Mind Stone out." I think that, there was a lot going on there in Wakanda.
It was great seeing everyone come back.
Right. And I think it was interesting that they chose Wakanda. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to go pick up Bucky. They were like, obviously they knew Wakanda was the place
They went
to
for
have
Shuri.
the last
And they got the force field around.
Yeah.
They got the force field around the whole area. Yeah.
Yeah, they have Shuri's
well,
tech. They have the force field. They had multiple reasons to go.
Right.
They got to fend off those demigorgons or whatever those things are.
The demigorgons. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Like when I saw the movie, and it was like they went to Wakanda. I don't know. I didn't think they'd necessarily stay there. I thought it was more like, you're right, Vision, getting the stone out. I didn't totally, other than obviously seeing it in the trailers, it didn't feel like that was where, it was all going to go down. Because I don't think they knew there was a force field there. It's not like everybody had Wakanda specs,
I don't
know.
Yeah. I think it was for the filmmakers. It was a cheaper way to have a big battle in just an open field, than in like a city or something. But yeah, you're right.
Well,
yeah,
also that's an Avengers thing to do now. Considering what they've done, they'd probably be more mindful about having a battle in a city. That's part of what Tony says to Steven earlier when they were still in the Flying Donut, and he said, we saw what they did in the city, so why don't we take the battle to him, and to Titan.
And you got some really cool comic book splash panel moments in there with Bucky picking up Rocket and them shooting the guns in a certain, like that's in a comic. It's
right.
There's so many great moments in that, even if the battle wasn't visually as appealing as Titan. You get to see Rhodey using his military experience. Like, I'm gonna, let's flank him, and because Rhodey is a military guy, so he's him and Sam are working together as like military guys,
aerial
support instead of superheroes.
Cool,
There's good moments in there for sure.
Was anybody else, and maybe this is just overly emotional, like I was bothered that Wakanda was where this battle was taking place, that it was going to destroy this, kind of secluded, pristine, protected space and bring all this, death and destruction.
Well, it doesn't look like
space.
they ever got to the cities.
Yeah,
though.
they didn't even get to the city.
No, but the barrier, was, impacted and things like that. So I don't know. I just remember watching that and like, oh, that's kind of sad.
They just got to regrow some of that grass. That's all they do.
Wakanda's so pretty. Yeah.
I don't know that I ever felt sad for Wakanda because
you don't see anything other than
that was
you guys were too busy watching the battle itself.
The dusted people will help, with the soil or whatnot. So
the one issue I had with the the one issue I had with the Wakanda fight though was we saw the tech that they had in Black Panther. Like they had the ships and they had all the machinery. They had the rhinos. The rhinos aren't in this movie, first of all. Let me just call that out.
Ships aren't in this movie.
But there's they just stand there like it's Pelennor Fields in Return of the King, and they're like, we're just going to duke it out like it's medieval times. And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, why don't they have their spacecrafts, their aircrafts out?
Yeah.
Where is half the cast from Black Panther that's apparently still here? Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. They just decided to use sticks, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh
well,
man, those
and there's
rhinos
I
would have
think it was
taken out
lacking some
half
of that
those
tech. Yeah.
space dogs, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
rhinos
well,
were
they had
great.
send the rhinos.
They had the Gungan shields though. They had the Gungan shields.
That's what I felt like. I
shield
was watching. I
blankets,
was like,
the
"This is
shield,
Phantom Menace. It's got the battle droids and the Gungans
Well, you're not.
fighting."
You're not wrong.
Well,
You're
it
not
was
wrong.
just frustrating though because they show all that cool tech in Black Panther, and even Shuri's like, "Well, I'm sure you did your best," and it's like, "But we're just gonna stand on a grass field, and we're just gonna take it." You know, I'm like, okay.
Where are all those awesome
made-
hovercrafts you guys have? Just go and shoot all those dogs. You know, like,
I would have
From
liked
the
to
other
see an
side, you
armor
go around
rhino.
the mountain and come down the side on the other side of them and shoot towards.
I would have liked to see an armor rhino charging one of those whatever they were, hell beasts.
I guess that would have undercut Thor's arrival, even though it's a plot hole.
Which is it's a plot
No,
hole,
I think it
Matthew.
would have
But
made it
damn,
better.
is
Come
it
on.
not glorious?
Armored
though?
rhinos and Thor.
I want Thor riding
an
a rhino.
armored rhino. Oh my God.
Ooh.
And a lot of people talk
Russo
about
brothers,
like where was
next movie.
Thor? Where was Thor? Like, you know, when Thanos finally showed up, and I from what I understand, it's because he didn't have an earpiece, which is pretty funny. Like, so, you know, that's a really funny like way to say like, yeah, well, we didn't know because you know he's just kind of using Stormbreaker and flying back and forth and destroying all those big, you know,
Space
triangle
dogs.
pyramid things that have the Demigorgons in them,
Oh.
and then. You know, once Thanos hits the ground, they're all talking on earpieces because, of course, they all have earpieces, but Thor doesn't. It's very convenient how all that works with the earpieces, you know, especially in
Well,
Endgame.
that's it's like in Doctor Strange where he's or whatever it was when he's like, "Well, how am I supposed to get hold of you?" He's like, "Hello, it's called an email. Do you have a computer? What's that?" He's like, "You could fax me." I mean, you know, we've had communication issues throughout the whole thing. I think the other thing too that's interesting I want to bring up is that we've talked about it in the last part was. You know, Hulk, and now he's in the Hulkbuster. You know, Hulk being in his own Hulkbuster.
I thought that was really
That's
creative.
funny. Yeah.
I mean, there's an irony there, but you know, we still got Hulk coming out, and I agree with you guys. It's like I don't know. I mean, maybe you know, looking at it from this perspective, it's like allowing Bruce to be Bruce, and you're setting up that whole Hulk and Bruce becoming one person, not just Smart Hulk or Professor Hulk or whatever you want to call him in Endgame, but just you know how he's starting to you know fuse him and the Hulk, and they can actually start working together because they're two, you know, this whole Jekyll and Hyde thing, and it's like how do they get them to work together? But
should Bruce have been helping Shuri back with Vision? Would that have been where he was better placed?
Well, maybe, but he already obviously screwed it up because she's like, "Why didn't you just do this?" And he's like, "Oh, you didn't think of it." She probably was like, "You probably got."
They already set it up that he wasn't
lab.
as smart as she was, at least on these.
But you do get that great moment where he's like, "Hey guys, this feels just like being the Hulk, only," and then he just trips, and you see like one of the Duramilaje just look at it.
Which is funny because from what I understand, he can't remember ever when he's the Hulk. He didn't even know he was the Hulk for 2 years in Ragnarok. So
that's
you know, I think it more of an assumption of being the Hulk. But yeah, I mean, I think it comes back to this is just, you know, again, looking back on it and thinking of all these little individual storylines that they're still expanding upon. It's not like they're just wrapping them up. I mean, you still got these complex characters, and it comes back to that great script writing and just, you know, keeping these characters, you know, what we know and what we love, but still giving us more, you know, a little more depth here and there. I think that, you know, I think it's interesting. I think putting Bruce, and there's an irony there, Bruce in a Hulkbuster suit is interesting. And then obviously you've got Vision. They're trying to take him out there, and then Wanda, you know, I think, you know,
finally
it's easy to
comes
look back now. Yeah, well, I think Wanda, it's easy to look back now because I know in the comic book I believe she beats Thanos once, and the kind of like you know her.
Well, she's
you know,
extremely powerful in the comics.
Yeah, and I think that you know it's you know you get that kind of like love between her and Vision. You know, she's got to destroy the stone, but then you look at that with Thanos and his love for Gamora and that twisted sort of love and that type of thing. And there's just so much going on here, which is why the movie is perfect-ish.
Well,
So,
It really
but,
is.
as
It
close
really
to perfect
is,
as a
man.
movie can be. Nothing is perfect.
Yeah, nothing's like when I mean this movie, like Matthew said early on in this, it is so rewatchable, it's ridiculous. Like you
It
can
is.
kind of jump into any scene in this movie and just start watching it from there. I mean, obviously if you're versed in this universe, but I find it's Winter Soldier's probably my favorite of all of the movies, but this one's the one that is just easily digestible, even though there's so much going on because everyone's doing their job. The actors are brilliant. They're all doing their characters perfectly, even though they're under different direction from different directors. There's so many different people they're working with. And like I said, unsung heroes, obviously the screenwriters, the editors specifically. This is one of those movies that like it kind of goes a step above some of the lackluster cinematography that we've had in some of the Earth-based movies. I've always found the Guardians movies really kind of beautiful to look at, specifically the second one. And this movie has some of that. It almost feels like it's chunks of all these different movies from these characters that we've seen. Just, it's extraordinary how well it turned out when it could have just been a disaster. It could have been, Justice League, so yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the theatrical release of Justice League.
Yeah.
Because that was
Right.
the design. I actually like the Zack Snyder cut.
Yeah,
but
but
it's
that's
still
like
nowhere
5
near.
hours long, It's like, yeah.
But it's still nowhere near as good as Infinity War. Even that cut pales in comparison.
Yeah,
Nothing's a
and,
perfect movie, and we talked about some of the gripes with this movie. There's a couple of minor ones. We didn't even talk about. I mean, we mentioned it before in one of the other movies. It bothers me how Drax went from, being a very literal but average intelligence character to being a moron. It's funny when he says, I've mastered the art of standing so perfectly still that I become invisible. It's funny, but it's also, stupid, and it's not Drax, but I'm willing to forgive it because it's such a great scene. Why is Gamora is a great line,
Yeah. Well, and I can, and it's, I think about things like, Spider-Man always has a pop culture reference in there, like in Ant-Man when he's like, "Do you ever see the old movie Empire Strikes Back?" And then in this movie, it's like, "You ever see this movie
See the old
Aliens?"
movie Aliens? Yeah.
Yeah. Then
I don't want to
when he sees
another pop culture reference from
No,
you for the rest
have
of
you
the
seen this really old movie, Aliens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
and
old
it's
is he?
like,
I didn't
when
carbon
Mantis
date
shows
him.
up, he's like, "Please don't put your eggs in me," or whatever. It's like, I think it's interesting. And then, again, back on Wakanda, Thor, we talked about Thor going, he's supposed to go for the head, but obviously I think he, the reason he didn't go for the head was because he wanted to make sure Thanos knew.
Yeah,
Well,
his
it's for
his
Heimdall.
hubris,
It's for
Thor's
Heimdall.
hubris is what got in the way of this movie ending with the Infinity Gauntlet not being snapped. Thor, you see, he takes his time. He like grabs his head like he's gonna kiss him for a second there, and he's just like, "I told you, I would kill you." And it's like, no, just pull it out of his chest and cut off his head, or something.
Wait, did
Right.
Or his
Thor
arm.
know at that
Yeah, don't
moment
tell
that,
him you're gonna kill him. Just kill him.
Yeah.
wait,
yeah.
did Thor know that that Thanos had the full gauntlet or all 6
Good
stones
point.
in the gauntlet at that exact moment?
Great point.
Because he
maybe
had just
not.
pulled it out of Vision and put it in there, but did Thor witness that? So
No,
we don't know. So maybe
that's
he
a fair
didn't know.
question, Darin,
maybe he
actually.
didn't go for the head because he didn't know that he had all 6 stones at that
I
moment.
think you're right.
So he had
Yeah.
5. I
Because
mean,
Thor
he had
was
5.
off on a side adventure.
I mean, still
He didn't
dangerous for
know-
sure.
He didn't know a lot about what was going on. So yeah, you're right. You're right.
I think that,
I mean, we do see his, no moment when Thanos snaps. You get like a second of Thor going no, and then.
But regardless of that, his
Mhm.
whole mission was I got to kill Thanos. So the hubris got in the way of just like finishing him off. But yeah,
the same thing. Yeah. And that's, and one of the things I was going to mention too, and this is kind of an aside, like we always go off on a little, I'm not nitpicking, but Vision, Wanda destroys the stone, Thanos comes over, pats her on the head, and he's like, "I've lost more than you've known," and then blah, blah, blah. And then he activates and he uses the time stone, which if I remember from Doctor Strange, it was, how did you learn the litany of spells it takes to activate the stone? And you're breaking space time. And yet Thanos I mean, I would think that would still matter, and yet he can just activate.
I think
I guess it's built into the gauntlet.
The gauntlet allows him to
it's
harness
the gauntlet
everything
and
easily,
all the
but
other
I'm not
stones
sure. Yeah.
might give ability or like collectively
I
they
mean,
become
we're
more useful together.
hypothesizing on this, of course.
Yeah.
There's
no
but
there's no
that's what it
basis
is.
for any of that. But.
He's been studying all of this for eons. We don't know how long he's been alive, but he's been looking for the stones forever. So.
But did Thanos go to Kamar-Taj? I don't know. Did he have access to the? I mean,
he didn't have to do all the extra special hand motion.
Again, I think that's why
the might not be the only place that the instruction manual. For
that's why I think that's why the gauntlet exists, is because it allows you to just harness them immediately. But who knows?
Yeah.
Like, also, why snap your finger? Why not clap or wink? You know?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, do the nose thing from Bewitched.
Exactly. Matthew, what were you going to say?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I like that Thor. I think it makes sense for his character that he wouldn't immediately go for the kill shot. I mean, he's this big, brazen warrior that's used to 1,500 years of gloating, and that just fits the character.
He said it right at the beginning.
Yeah. Epic death, not just death.
Well, after he kills Heimdall, he says, you're going to die for that.
Yeah.
And it was a promise. So to kill him too quickly without him realizing that was for Heimdall, in essence, that would have been
Loki.
Thor, not.
And I think
making
Darin's point is correct. Like, he didn't even know that he had the ability to do whatever with the stones. Like, so yeah, you're right. He wanted to kill him, but he wanted to let him know, I want to kill you. So yeah, he took his time.
Well, he didn't.
I've turned around from you guys on that whole argument.
You agree to disagree. We got it. We got it. That's all that.
He didn't know Thanos' plan with the stones either.
Wait, hang on, Matthew.
When we get to the end, go ahead, Matt.
Well, we didn't even talk about the snap yet either, and the
no, we're getting to the snap next.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
we didn't talk about Vision and Wanda. I mean,
we did.
And that's
I think we did.
No, Heather, go.
No, like the actual death and like the death again.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Come on.
And how powerful she is. Holding
that was
back
probably
Thanos
my most
trying to
heartbreaking moment.
Dude. Because in the comics,
that was most heartbreaking.
She's a mutant in the comics. She has. She's not so vulnerable.
Probability fields or something.
Yeah. She's a little bit different in the comics, but in this movie, she's presented, or in this universe, she's presented as a normal person that if you punch her, it hurts her. So she has all these powers, but she's not invulnerable to physical damage. Where in the comics, she's a mutant. It's a little bit different. So yeah, sometimes it's funny that she kind of gets out of these situations unscathed because she has powers, but this movie's the only movie where you see Proxima Midnight like cracker, and then she's like, boom, she like hits the ground, and she's like, I don't really know how to fight, so I can get my ass kicked by Proxima Midnight, and that's when the other people show up and help her. But yeah, that scene where she's doing that, and you're like, this is it. The music's hyping up. She's holding back Thanos. She's gonna blow up that stone, and the music is just cracking. And then it happens, and you're like, oh, okay. Now maybe Thor will come in and kill Thanos, but no, he just immediately just reverses that moment, and it is brutal. Where he just grabs Vision and just cracks his head open and pulls that stone out.
Yeah,
great scene.
Yeah,
there's a cool visual.
And for Wanda to have to go through that, twice.
To see him die twice, once by her own hand. But I like the visual cue too, where they show as his legs go limp, the color drains out of him.
Yeah.
And
he throws him to the side like an old battery. Yeah.
And then
that's what I'm saying. He's just a holder of the Mind Stone, sort of.
And then I suppose a good question. Go ahead.
I was gonna say if they had successfully extracted the Mind Stone via Shuri's technique there, I thought the Mind Stone was the Mind Stone was his mind. So
they were saying that there might be more that without they were saying
wouldn't that be lobotomizing him?
No. I think it's Banner that says your Vision after that. Banner says your mind is made up of a construct of me and Stark and Ultron, and if we take out the Mind Stone, you might even be better.
Yeah, and Jarvis,
they said that the Mind Stone might have started it, but Yeah, he said that without the Mind Stone, there's still a lot of Vision
It
left.
was a little hand wavy.
So-
I thought he was. I thought there wasn't going to be much of him left, no matter what you did. So
We don't know. In any case, I guess we'll never.
He's just
Yeah,
Paul
but,
Bettany at that point.
But I
He's just
wonder.
Paul
But I
Bettany.
do have a
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
then.
exactly. He's just Jarvis. He's just back to being
from
Jarvis.
Wimbledon.
But I guess there's a good question then. That like, was everyone? How did everyone feel? Were you surprised that the snap worked? And like the first time you saw it,
The first time, yeah, I was like, oh, they committed
did it.
to that
Yeah.
end, at least for that moment, for that movie.
I wasn't
It was
completely
hard.
shocked
It hit hard
because I knew that they had originally planned to make Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2. They had not said yet it was going to be a different name. Or I think they said it was not going to be called Part 2, but I still knew it was going to be following the same story. So I had a feeling it was going to succeed. So I wasn't completely shocked, but I was still pretty surprised at how they did it and how emotional.
I
it
never
was,
thought
and it
for
was-
1 second that any of those people were actually dead. So
Oh yeah, me
Well,
neither.
yeah.
So even if it was surprising at the moment, I was just like, okay, because Spider-Man 2 comes out next month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Matthew, are you smiling because you're thinking of the story of when we saw it in the theater?
Yeah, I am. I was wondering if you
tell
were
us,
going to
tell
say.
us.
No, you tell it.
No,
Dad.
you tell the story. No, you tell the
You,
story.
you
Matthew,
tell it
the
so
story.
emphatically, and I want to
No,
hear.
I'm not going to just. Oh, we were sitting in Endgame, right? Infinity War. I'm jumping ahead. We're sitting in Infinity War, and right when Black Panther, he's like, "Come on, General, this is no place," right? And then he poofs out and turns into dust. Oh man, this guy got up and was like, fuck this movie. And he goes storming out. Like, he was so mad. And we sat there and we're like, dude, they're going to be back in the next movie. I swear to God. Right. But he was so pissed off that he was just like, I don't care. I don't want to talk about this. Fuck that. And he was out of there. It was so funny. And, but anyway, that's my little side
Well, that's what I'm
there.
saying.
But I think that
it was an emotional end that hit a lot of people in the feels, like hard,
right?
Like regardless of what
it's
you
hard to see
logically know is going to be in the next movie.
Dude, the Peter
And
Parker,
again, I
the
didn't- I
Peter
didn't- I
Parker
didn't see it
death
as
was
an
brutal,
ending.
man.
Yeah,
Because
I didn't see it as an ending.
Peter
but-
Parker lasted a little bit longer than everybody else because his spider sense was going off.
Yeah.
So that's why he kind of
his,
got a moment
and he
to
also
like.
has that healing.
Yeah,
He has that
Well,
super
that
healing.
scene was horrible.
Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was going to say I didn't see it so much as the ending as like the biggest cliffhanger in movie history. Like, because again, the story's not over, so
Yeah.
but to end like that with all of these main characters dissolving, it was like
Yeah.
Yeah, I
so it was
wasn't
definitely breathtaking. I wasn't necessarily surprised, but yeah, huge cliffhanger of a movie.
Yeah.
At that point.
It's not
kinda
that you
left me
didn't think they were
breathless.
going to get out of it. It's how they were going to get out of it. Was
And if
yeah.
you noticed, everybody that was dusting was not part of the original core 6. So you're like,
Right.
the next movie's going to get the 6 back together. Even though we didn't see Hawkeye in this movie, we just assumed maybe he's going to still be alive. And we obviously found that out pretty early on, I think, in the first opening scene of the next movie. So we're like, oh, it's going to be the core 6 with maybe a couple of other people in there. And it was, so kind of made sense.
I didn't.
Which
catch
was
all that.
well, it was not something I picked up on the first time I watched it. I just was thinking about all the people we lost. So I remember I went there with my daughter on opening day and the whole theater was silent, starting from the moment Bucky disappeared and continuing right up until the end credits. No one said a word.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
They were so loud in the moments coming up to it, and when like Thor showed up at Wakanda, like everyone was cheering. It's so much fun to go to the movies for that reason. But when you hear Bucky say Steve, and then the camera shows him and he just disappears.
And then when you see Groot, you're like, oh, no.
Yeah. You can hear people crying. My daughter was, just tears streaming down her face. I mean, that was how she was for the whole movie, mostly because of Loki, but still, like even the other characters too.
She hadn't recovered from the beginning of
She
the
hadn't
movie.
recovered
She's
2 hours earlier.
But I remember
exactly.
specifically when the post-credit scene came on and you see
I remember
Colby
before
Smulders. I always forget her name, and Maria Hill, and Nick Fury zap out or whatever. My theater was like silent when the pager came down because I don't think a lot of people knew what that was.
Oh no, my theater knew. My theater knew.
I knew who
complete
it was,
eruption of applause as soon as the pager came up and the star showed up in the middle. Everyone was like, "Yeah!" It was great. But I remember everyone crying when everyone was disappearing, and I could hear it again. It's not really a mid-credit scene, but halfway through the credits when it says Avengers Infinity War and the letters dust away. It was like, we didn't hurt you enough.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you think about when Spider-Man disappears, from what I understand, that was
he acted the hell.
That was improv.
Ad-libbed.
That was he ad-libbed that whole I don't want to go, I don't want to, that whole thing, and it's like, I mean, that just, and then Tony's just sitting there with just Peter on his fingers, and you're just like, and I'm just like, that to me, it comes back to what we've all kind of said, or most of us have said, is like that Titan scene was probably the best fight scene, but like the most pivotal, because I think that you feel it when everybody's dusting in Wakanda, but you really feel it with like Titan, whatever,
all the
stuff
Guardians
that happens
just
on
fade
Titan.
away. All the Guardians,
every single one of them.
And that's
except
where.
Nebula.
Yeah, the Titan scenes combined are the most pivotal. You find out the Doctor Strange, Tony, it was the only way. He sees the 14,605,000, all that stuff, and then it's and they work so hard there. Not that Wakanda they didn't, but they were like pushing themselves. I mean, Tony gets a moon thrown at him. You know what I mean? And it's like, and then just that, and they don't even know what's happening on Earth. I mean, again, we're jumping
and that's
around.
The thing, because once they lose to Thanos and he goes off to Earth, they're like, well, this was our stand we were trying to make. Now what do we do? How do we get out of here? How do we get back?
They had to sit
exactly.
there for another half hour of their time and then fade away. Holy crap!
Peter Quill was just like, did we just lose? And I don't know how much
then
time
Nebula's like,
passed,
she just goes, he did it. And we talked about music and no music. There was no music. It was just like some thunder crackling, and it was just quiet all the way on to Titan.
And you just
everything
hear
else.
the wind blowing the ashes away, the ashes that used to be people.
It was great to hear that thunder, because it just immediately shows that like nature is now responding to the fact that half of everything is gone. So it's reacting in some sort of weird way, just that's kind of how I took it. It was like, so, even nature and weather, it's like shifting this fast, Yeah.
Matthew, you were going to say something?
No, I mean, the first time I saw it, I always think about that story that Dad told. I mean, that's
well,
why.
We were so shocked because this guy was so loud.
I mean,
anyway,
he was screaming at the top of his lungs, and he slammed his little Harkins cup down. And I mean, if this guy ever listens to this podcast, let me know. I feel you. That was a rough scene to watch. You kind of ruined the ambiance of the theater, but it's okay. The somberness of the environment.
I would have loved to have been there for that.
I mean, he was up in the front. I mean, I could tell you exactly where he was sitting too, because I'll never forget it. But I loved the scene, and I knew Thanos was going to win. Of course, you knew he was going to win. He was winning at the start of this movie. He wins at the end, right? And I think that's why I like this movie. But I've not seen a reaction like that guy's reaction to Black Panther's death in the movie, and I think that's what elevates this movie above others. Is you get reactions even on a rewatch. It's like, wow, I forgot that kind of happened. I mean, I've seen this movie probably 25 times. I love this movie so much.
Those are rookie numbers. 25 rookie numbers.
I have a kid. It's fine.
So do I.
But I don't know. I love the snap scene. Like I said earlier, the absence of soundtrack makes it hit even harder.
So much, yeah.
And the heroes that we do lose versus the ones we don't, I do think it's kind of interesting that he left Nebula alive. I don't know if he had that intention or not, but he, she has to watch everybody else die and suffer, and she doesn't get snapped away, right?
Yeah.
I think that was an interesting choice. I don't know. I think it's
Thanos didn't have a choice, right?
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he said it was
a
random,
luck of the draw thing. You don't know who's going to go.
Okay, yeah.
But
I thought it was random.
With torturing her all of her life,
it wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah, if in the back of his mind he's like, no, we keep Nebula alive, just a little final bit of torture there. So, but I do. I mean, I
Yeah, we
love
don't
Nebula
know, but-
Nebula was tortured by not being snapped away, and Wanda was actually the look on her face when
was
she
almost
dusts
relief.
away was like, oh,
Yeah.
thank God I'm out. It's like,
I do love. I think the most visceral reaction out of all of them is Okoye's when she's got that like look of horror, like
Yeah.
what the hell is going on? And I think
Yeah.
about that one a lot because it's great acting, but it's also like it really. I don't know. Everybody else is kind of like walking around like, what the heck? And
Yeah, they're
we're
kind of
covering
in a
was,
everything
daze,
else.
but
was
she's freaking out.
everybody in Wakanda briefed on what Thanos was going to do with the snap?
I don't know.
Like,
Yeah, I was
were
there,
they
Darin, so
completely
we were.
briefed?
I'm just kidding.
You know, we saw the same
No,
movie
no,
you
I'm just
did.
saying-
Did,
No, I'm
did
saying, is
any
that
of
why
them
she was so
really know that
shocked?
he was
Is
going to do the
because
snap?
We don't
Thor
know.
sent me an email, so I was ready when I
Yeah,
was there.
okay,
and
you're
we'll
right.
talk-
But yeah, I mean, was it stated to the
No,
other Avengers either?
we
I
don't
mean,
know.
like
We saw the same
they
movie
they
you
knew
did.
he
We
was
don't.
coming to
know.
do something bad, but did they know
But he
what
should
the
not get
don't
all
know.
six
was gonna
Infinity
be?
Stones. We got that. But if he does, what is he going to do? Did we everybody know that half the universe was going to
I'm guessing that they, who
disappear?
knows? There's no way to know.
I mean, I
So-
know everybody else on Earth didn't know.
They're
But
not
I
going
do
to
know
know.
that
They're going to
that-
know.
Yeah, but I do know that that was some amazing acting from Okoye.
What's her name?
Damn it,
Denai
what's her name?
Gurira. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yes, Denai
Michonne from The Walking Dead.
Michelle.
No,
Yeah,
but-
that's why I had Michonne from The Walking
Yeah,
Dead because
that
she
look-
was
She
amazing
does
in The
have
Walking
that
Dead.
look of horror, and I can understand it too because it's not just anyone, and not just a friend or the guy that she's in love with. It's her king,
Right.
the one that she
Yeah.
dedicated her life to protecting, and he disappeared.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then
So final shot, we get Thanos in his retirement there.
Making
And,
some sort of
smug
stew.
look.
Yeah,
No,
well,
that was in
yeah.
another movie. That was
Oh
in
yeah, that was in
Yeah, we don't
Endgame.
get
He's
that yet.
making stew. This one, he's
Yeah, he's just
looking
sitting here.
out over the grateful universe, like you
looking
said.
smug.
You know,
He's looking at
Yeah.
these
no,
long
well,
flamingos.
yeah, exactly. I mean, he
Drinking
sits down,
margaritas, got the Hawaiian shirt on. He's ready.
but
Yeah.
but it's not like he gives a villain speech or like we hear his thoughts and he's like first person narrating or anything else. It's just, and then it's the violins. We talk about the absence of music, but this one really hit it home. He sits down, he smiles, and the music just, and then it just boom goes.
Well, the
credits
last
just roll.
words that we hear, the last words we hear from Thanos in this entire movie is, what did it cost? Everything. He doesn't have
Yeah.
any lines after that.
Right.
He
Yeah.
wordlessly disappears from Wakanda, and in that final scene where we see him, he's just sitting there and looks content.
I mean, did you feel like that ending was uncomfortable, or was it the Empire Strikes Back? And we've been through that
No,
type
it's-
of thing.
I
That
felt
was a
very
gut punch,
Empire
even.
Strikes Back. It had
Yeah.
massive crowd pleasing moments. I love that they had the stones to, no pun intended. They had the stones.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
How
to
many
really-
stones were there?
Really end this movie the way they did, with so much great comedy and great awe moments and character moments and, like I said, crowds pleasing moments, and then to end it the way they did, I was like, this is perfect. This is like,
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
for not, for subversion a little bit. I hate that term, but like to just end it this way because we know there's another one coming, but Yeah.
This is where you
Yeah.
could. This end is where you could argue that Thanos is a more well thought out antagonist, because he isn't doing the getting on a podium saying, "See, you can all thank me now," and he's not doing that. He's just he's effing off.
But he
to,
thinks
his
that there's
hut,
a grateful
and
universe,
just-
but yeah.
well, yeah, but
He
he's
thinks that the
not. He
universe
doesn't
is
even
grateful.
seeking
He
the
doesn't even know the
accolades. He just-
outcome. He doesn't even know the outcome of his own goal. He
Yeah,
doesn't
he's
know
not-
if it's
he's-
going to work. He just knows he did what he set out
He
to
just
do.
knows mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
And he's
that's
satisfied with
crazy.
himself.
Your final thoughts on the movie, Heather?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I know final thoughts. I know we all pretty much love the movie from top to bottom,
Yeah.
pretty much, with the exception of a few little things. But I mean,
Yeah, like minor
I think
nitpicks. but
I think the rewatch. I mean, we're talking about it. It's Infinity War.
I'm
is
gonna
one of
watch
those
it again
ones you
after
can
this.
Go back and watch it. Watch it over and over again. I know, a few of us have talked about how Winter Soldier is our favorite, MCU movie, but I've heard a lot of people say they like Infinity War better than Endgame, and Endgame, is like, do you feel like Infinity War was peak MCU even now? I mean, we've had so much TV shows and everything else, just kind of your thoughts more on like, yes, the movie's awesome, and we've said it's awesome, but like, how do you feel like it is within
I
the
was
whole
going to
MCU?
say, I
Spoiler
was going to
alert.
say,
Spoiler alert. This movie is eons better than Endgame, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We
No, yeah.
we reviewed both of these movies as they came out on the channel years ago. I won't get into Endgame right now. Maybe I'll be invited to that. If not, no problem. Yeah.
oh, you're invited.
Sorry, Josh. I just needed to say, yes, this movie is so much better than Endgame, in my humble opinion. But
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to wait until Endgame to say this, but I can still say it here, which is not completely, but to a degree, I think of Infinity War and Endgame as kind of two volumes of the same movie, kind of the way Lord of the Rings is three movies, but it's one story. And I really feel like there's a parallel, if you will, between this and Kill Bill. Because if you look at Kill Bill, the first movie, nonstop action, the whole runtime, very exciting, moving from one set to the next, very rapid pace, lots of fighting. And then the second one, you go to it and it's very slow.
it's a
and
character
it's
piece. Yeah.
much more melancholy. Very few. There are fight scenes and they're very exciting, but they're very quick and they're scattered throughout the film until the end. And it's much more thoughtful. And that's kind of how these are too. I think of very much the same way.
Josh, that is a
Infinity War
great comparison, because you're 100% right. The action, the spectacle of Kill Bill Volume 1, and then it slows everything down to get you to understand who she is, why she is, and who Bill is. Yeah, that great comparison. Yeah, never even thought of it.
and that's what we get with this, because this Infinity War is nonstop action. It's all about Thanos. The Avengers are the ones that we see throughout the movie, but there is not a single scene in this movie that isn't about Thanos. And so the whole thing moves, as we said, at breakneck speed with one action scene after another, right up until the end. And then you get Endgame. And there's very little action at the beginning. We get a beheading, but that's about it. And then no action, just lots of melancholy and talking, and then a brief action scene, and then more and more until we get to the last, 45 minutes of the movie.
I think we're an hour and 20 minutes into Endgame before there's an action scene.
Yeah. And it's like the last act of the movie is one big fight scene. But other than that, it's very melancholy and very quiet. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
These
two movies are inseparable.
Yeah. Anybody else final thoughts before we wrap it up?
I think this is the peak of the MCU. I've always felt that Infinity War is better than Endgame. I used to serve in the kids ministry at church, and when Endgame came out, they were like, no, Endgame's better. And I feel like at the time, everybody's sentiment was that Endgame was a better film because it wrapped everything up and it concluded the Infinity Saga. But I think now in retrospect, people are starting to appreciate Infinity War because it set everything up perfectly. I think it's the best Avengers movie. I think it's the best MCU movie. I said it in the last episode. It's on the Mount Rushmore of superhero movies. I think it's a very, very important MCU movie because the villain wins, because you get those visceral reactions that'll stay with you till you're old and gray, that of people pumping their fist in the theater or getting mad and slamming their cups down and walking out. It's like you don't get that out of any other MCU movie. Even when you think about the scenes in Endgame where like Cap picks up the hammer, it's like, yeah, that's a cheering moment, but it loses its luster, I think, after a couple of rewatches. And I personally find Infinity War's rewatchability to be more enjoyable. And I don't know. I think this is a great movie. And I think everything after this, even if it's good in the MCU, is downhill. So
Heather?
Yeah, I think this is the best of the Avengers ensemble movies for sure. 100%. I think I like the fact that they went deeper with the villain. I like the fact, not that I like it, but I think it makes it interesting to see them fail really for the first time, like to truly fail, not just, hiccups along the way or Civil War disagreements and things like that. But, this ends with failure. And I think that's so momentous in the overall storyline that it does, I think. And the fact that it's such a fast-paced movie that ends in failure. I think just that contrast just makes it even better of a movie. It's definitely one of the favorites to rewatch.
Darin.
Yeah, I agree with every single one of those. I think Josh had a great point in that these movies, Infinity War and Endgame, are one story. They're not. You can say that the setup's great in Infinity War, but the resolution is just as great in Endgame. But you can't separate them. That it is one cohesive story between these two films. In the theaters, I was cheering hard in so many scenes. Yeah, I can't really say more than what you guys have, because I pretty much agree with everything. I can't gripe much about it, except that I didn't personally not connect, but I didn't. The Thanos was not as attractive of a villain as I would have hoped, I guess.
He's
but
attractive.
that's
Oh, he's got
with that
good purple six pack right there. Trust
with
me.
that chin, man. Yeah,
Dude, the
But no,
purple
just saying.
scrote. It was all
I'm
about the
just-
scrote. Scroty
Just
chin.
saying. I'm just saying. People talk up how he's the most three-dimensional villain in the past, X amount of decade, whatever it is, whatever they compare it to, and I keep, at my core, I keep disagreeing with that, viscerally or emotionally. I'm like, I don't see it. I mean, logically I see it, but emotionally I don't connect with it. I don't know. But yeah, really, this fantastic movie. Again, I would say it is. I would label it the best MCU movie. Yeah.
I loved it beginning to end. I mean, I always equate it to Empire Strikes Back, because that's what it is. With me, with movies, because I always took the kids to everything that I liked. I'd pull them out of school in elementary school to go see Spider-Man, like back in the day. So there's part of me that looks at it through the lens of being able to share the same types of feelings and that type of thing. And I think Infinity War is just, it's awesome. Again, my favorite MCU movie, again, I know we've said it a billion times, is Winter Soldier, but this one is completely epic. It was everything that I had hoped it would be, and it was awesome. It was awesome beginning to end, and I just thought it was great.
Yeah, and me too. I like you asked before whether I like this one more than Endgame, and I do have trouble separating them. Like I said, I think of them as one movie, and even if you were to say like you have to separate one and pick one over the other, I'd have a really hard time, because this movie I love for the action, but I love Endgame for the introspection. But so it kind of depends on my mood for the day, which one I like more. I'll still say The Winter Soldier is my favorite MCU movie of all of them, but this one is so close, because and I've said many times, when I do a rewatch, I do every single movie. I don't skip any, but there are some movies that I look forward to more than others. This is definitely one that I look forward to. I can't wait to get to this movie every single time. And I watched it 3 times in preparation for this podcast.
I watched it, Josh. I watched it in Spanish on YouTube just to get sort of that cinema verite, like where it's like I don't even need to know what they're saying, because I already know what they're saying. So I watched it in Spanish at
In
one
my
point.
soul, I know what they're saying. Yeah.
Now we got to watch it in reverse with the reverse colors and black and white.
That's the next thing. Watch it in reverse. Yeah.
Oh god.
Watch it in reverse, and it's a heartwarming story
Yeah, just
about
use
Thanos
the time
putting
stone.
the stones back.
All right.
But then the next movie is Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I have a few gripes that really couldn't be helped, and we'll talk about that next week.
It's kind of hard to follow Infinity War.
I kind of
with
wish that it
anything at this
wasn't the
point.
next movie, and that's not to say that it's not a good movie. It's just we'll talk about it next week.
I think it's one of the best comedies that the MCU put out. Like I remember seeing it opening day, and it's really funny. But other than that, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
but
the
it's
problem
funny.
is the tone, considering we go from
all the
Infinity
trauma that we
War.
all just went through. Right?
Yeah, killed off half the
Thanos
universe.
just killed the world.
Let's throw
Here's
in
a
a comedy.
small little Ant-Man story.
But there was no way around it either, and we'll talk about that next week. So again, I want to thank Bob, Darin, Heather, and Matthew for always being here. I really appreciate you coming on, Ben from Cinema Gulp. I hope that you'll come back. You're always welcome.
Thank you.
For any movie, and I say that as the guy who started this, but we kind of all collaborate, and I want to thank the people who are watching this too, because without you we wouldn't have a show. So if you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe, or what did it say? Ring the bell, and as always, make tomorrow better than yesterday.